Hey guys, it's me, Halloween Dan, doing a quick and rather unexpected video today because I just wanted to have a little chat about some new animatronics that have been leaked. Now, I'm a bit late to the party. There's been plenty of haunters online who've been talking about this stuff already, but I just kind of wanted to have a little look, see what all the fuss was about, and see if I can appreciate the full magnitude of the amazingness that seems to be the new prop lineup from Lowe's. So let's check this out. So Lowe's, for me, as I have to use this disclaimer every single time I talk about the place, we do not get Lowe's in the UK. This should be a given now. The UK is rubbish for this kind of stuff. But the impression I always got from Lowe's, particularly when I looked at some of their animatronics last year, is that Lowe's usually is on the slightly cheaper end of the scale. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I've been given. That Lowe's stuff is more simplistic. The animatronic movement of certain things is maybe not up to the same scale as places like Spirit, maybe not even Home Depot. But the leaked images that have come out, and they are only images so far, shows not only some quite interesting animatronics, but what's really getting people kind of hyped is that this year Lowe's has done something which no mainstream store has ever done, even in the US, which is that it has brought out a couple, at least, I think just two so far anyway, pneumatic props. Now, pneumatics are not something I have even the slightest hint of how to start going about with pneumatics. They've always been of the slightly more specialist horn genre, people who are really into their horns and have maybe spent decades putting them together. They're kind of like the home build world. I mean, I love a home build, but they're, obviously pneumatics means they have to be driven by compressors, and it's a whole other way of doing a haunt. So it's interesting that Lowe's has decided to bring out a couple of actual ready-made pneumatic props, which by the sounds of it are not overly expensive. And what everyone's kind of not sure about is, does that come with a compressor? Is it a little compressor? How exactly is this going to work? Or do they just presume you're going to have a compressor? I don't know. So let's have a quick look at these props in all their entirety and see what we really think about them. The first thing I just wanted to have a little look at was what is simply described as a blow mold tree. Now, I'm a fan of a creepy tree. In fact, I was going to do another video about another creepy tree, which was made by one of my favourite haunt firms, Distortions Unlimited, and haven't got around to doing it yet. But just thought we'd just settle on this just for a moment, just as our first thing to look at. As a prop, this is actually a really cool prop. I don't think it does an awful lot. It is literally just a tree. It's described as a blow mold tree. But it's kind of cool. I really like the raven sort of crow that's on its branch. The lantern, you know me with props with lanterns. I love a lantern hanging randomly about. It's got a creepy little face. I'm guessing it lights up. It's got these signs, danger haunted forest and turn back. Really simple, but effective, and I love these sorts of props. The description simply says it's an 84-inch gnarl-blown mold trunk tree featuring a horrific bat accent. I have no idea what that means, but it obviously makes sounds like flapping bats and light up eyes, lantern. It looks really cool. It's exactly the sort of prop that I would like to get is an addition to the other things that are in my horn. So it's a really neat little place to start. Next, we've got this sort of pumpkin and skeleton sort of duo, which kind of remind me of my banjo playing skeletons that came from Costco. They're of the same ilk. They're quite clearly going to be both playing instruments. And I love the fact that one is a skeleton and one is a pumpkin head. They've kind of got really old school classic Halloween vibes about them, both wearing like slightly clownish outfits. They're clearly not going to be very big, and probably, if I'm honest, not the sort of thing I would be going for. but I like them nevertheless. They're kind of cool. Next is another static prop, which is basically just an entrance archway of some description. It says Halloween Manor. Now, I like this because this is exactly the sort of thing I've been trying to recreate for the last however many years in my home haunt, where with some form of an archway over the entrance to the haunt itself. Really simple, but really effective. Loving the detail on this thing. I really like the scroll work. That it's clearly supposed to look metal. It probably is. I'm not sure. Is it plastic? Is it metal? I'm not sure. It looks sturdy though. It's got some really great stands for it to stand on, and it almost looks like lanterns. Perhaps those lanterns light up. I'm not overly sure whether they do, but they're still really cool. One of my favourite animatronic props so far to be shown in these leaked images is what kind of looks a little bit like the Angel of Death type prop. I think that's the name. It's from Home Depot. I think it was not last year, the year before. Looks really cool. It says it's 8 foot, but I think that's its overall height. It's stood on this plinth with like a skull detailing on it. But it looks really creepy, really cool. It's got glowing eyes under the hood, some wingspan. It looks like one of those classic haunted graveyard statues you might see in a graveyard. Possibly those wings extend out. It looks as though it has some sort of light up feature lighting it up. It generally looks really cool, and this is exactly the sort of thing I would be looking for if I was in the marketplace for this. Then we've got a zombie guy. Now, zombies are not my thing particularly, but I do have to say I quite like the look of this zombie guy. I like the light up eyes. There is some hint that perhaps he has some form of lunging feature, moves forward a little bit. I'm not so certain. The detail I have gotten is kind of sketchy, but he still looks kind of cool. And if you're in the market for zombies, which I'm usually not, if I'm honest with you, but I can appreciate it nevertheless, this is a pretty good looking one. Then we've got a couple of stirring witches. Now, we've seen stirring witches time and time again. They're always the same sort of thing. They have the same sort of phrasing, the same sort of lines. They're always stirring a cauldron, they're cackling about. But actually, in terms of look, these stirring witches, they actually look quite good. I quite like the outfits. I like the hats. I don't know whether the hats are supposed to be curved in that way or whether they've just posed them that way. I'm not quite sure. Looks like one of them's holding a magic wand, so maybe they're casting a spell over the cauldron rather than stirring the cauldron. So that's kind of a cool feature if that were true. But yeah, there's not much more to say about them. There's some form of a duo of witches, either stirring a cauldron, casting a spell over a cauldron. We've seen this before, but it doesn't mean I don't like it. But the two props that people are most excited about are the ones that are describing themselves as pneumatic. And like I said earlier on in the video, no one's quite sure exactly how these pneumatics are going to work. I mean, everyone knows with pneumatics a compressor has to be involved, but is this going to be one of these props that includes a compressor when you buy it? Are they expecting you to have a compressor already? No one's overly certain. But one way or another, this has kind of revolutionised the Halloween prop market, because up until this point, no mainstream store has ever done anything to do with pneumatics. It's always been in the slightly more specialist fields or home builds, and this is the first time it's ever been done. The first of the two props to talk about is the one that's probably my favourite out of the two. Described as a 65-inch ghostly woman with startle effect, she appears to be a creepy kind of woman who, it sounds as though she extends. The pneumatic function of it seems to be that she either extends up into the air or something along those lines, because it says prop suddenly reaches full height, and that's the startle effect. So you would presume that it's some kind of a, almost like a Mr. Dark kind of a prop, suddenly lunges up into the sky and creates a spooky, scary effect. But with pneumatics, it's going to be quite an effect. It's really gonna launch. The next prop is what looks to be like a clown groundbreaker kind of a prop. Now again, I'm not into clowns, I don't really like clowns, and this, just from the look of it, I like it, I can appreciate it, but it's not the kind of prop I would be buying. From the brief description we get about this prop, it seems as though he's lying on the ground, some sort of sensor triggers him, like the ghostly woman, it's triggered and then it extends up out of the ground to create the startle scare effect that they're obviously going for. It's kind of cool. I quite like it. I'm feeling this pneumatic thing. It's really cool. Now, it's early days. This might just be the first sort of opening to what Lowe's has got waiting in the wings for later on in the year. I'm not sure. Either way, the sad news for me, of course, is I just have to look at this from afar. The chances of me actually getting my hands on any of this at all is slim to zero. But it's still really cool to see it, especially in January. You know, it's a dull, horrible month. It's great to see what's already in the wings, waiting and preparing to appear in stores, even if it is in the US at some point in the build up to Halloween. And this, it always gets me sort of psyched for Halloween, is seeing these amazing things appearing online, other people getting hyped about them, wanting to buy them, get them into their haunts. It's sad that I might not get the chance. Well, I never no might about it. I won't get the chance to get my hands on any of these, as cool as some of them are. But it's still kind of great getting to see them nevertheless. And with all these new leaked images, it means that Halloween is steadily approaching. It's like, what, 280 odd days? Amazing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.